The camera was already moving when it happened. Nobody in the room seemed to notice. Nobody except one person. Wang Yibo. For less than 3 seconds, the atmosphere changed. It was so subtle that someone watching casually could have missed it completely. The lights were flashing. Cameras were moving from one celebrity to another. Fans were screaming names from behind the barriers. Assistants were walking quickly across the floor, carrying phones, makeup bags and documents. And then Zhan appeared. Yibo's expression changed. Not dramatically. That was exactly what made it interesting. There was no exaggerated smile. No obvious reaction. Just a tiny pause. A glance. Then another glance. And then he looked away. 3 seconds. That was all. But sometimes 3 seconds can create a mystery that lasts for years. Because when the clip was replayed frame by frame, fans began noticing something else. Zhan had looked in exactly the same direction. And suddenly, what appeared to be an ordinary moment became something people couldn't stop discussing. Was it coincidence? Was it simply two people recognizing each other in a crowded room? Or was there a story behind that tiny exchange that nobody had been told? That was where the mystery began. And this fictional story asks one question. What if the smallest detail was actually the most important one? The room was supposed to be ordinary. A huge event. Hundreds of people. Dozens of cameras. Famous faces everywhere. Nobody had any reason to believe that anything unusual was about to happen. Yibo stood near one side of the backstage area while staff members prepared the next segment. He wasn't speaking much. That wasn't unusual. He had become accustomed to noisy rooms without necessarily becoming part of the noise. Then someone mentioned Zhan's name. Just casually. One staff member said something about the next seating arrangement. Yibo didn't respond. At least, not verbally. But his eyes moved. Only briefly. The staff member didn't notice. Another person did. A camera operator. The operator had been testing the camera angle when he noticed Yibo's face. He didn't think much of it at first. Then Zhan walked into the room. Everything continued normally. People greeted him. Assistants surrounded him. Someone adjusted his microphone. Someone else checked his jacket. He smiled politely. Then his eyes moved across the room. And stopped. For one heartbeat. Yibo was standing there. The two men didn't walk toward each other. They didn't shake hands. They didn't create a dramatic scene. Nothing happened. And yet something had happened. Because Zhan's expression changed too. The smile became quieter. His eyes softened for a moment. Then he looked away. The camera operator lowered his equipment. He had seen enough. Not enough to know anything. But enough to become curious. The strange thing about mysteries is that they rarely begin with something enormous. They begin with something tiny. A glance. A pause. A familiar gesture. A sentence that sounds meaningless until you hear it again. A person standing slightly closer than expected. A smile that appears for half a second and disappears. Fans began collecting these moments. Not because there was proof of some secret relationship. There wasn't. But because the repeated coincidences were fascinating. And in this fictional story, one particular fan noticed something nobody else had noticed. She called herself Myra online. She wasn't famous. She wasn't an insider. She didn't claim to know anyone personally. She simply loved analyzing performances. One evening, she was editing old clips. She had watched the same footage hundreds of times. Then she noticed a pattern. Whenever Yibo and Zhan appeared in the same environment, one of them seemed to become unusually aware of where the other was. Not always. Not every time. But often enough to make her stop. She opened another clip. Then another. Then another. Her laptop screen became a timeline of tiny moments. She slowed everything down. 0.5 speed. Then 0.25. Then frame by frame. And that's when she saw it. A gesture. Something so insignificant that almost everyone would have ignored it. Yibo had touched the edge of his sleeve. Seconds later, Zhan had done something remarkably similar. Myra stared at the screen. Coincidence, she whispered. She moved to another clip. Different location. Different clothes. Different event. Same tiny movement. Her eyes widened. She searched again. Another clip. Again. The same thing. Not identical. But similar. She leaned closer to the screen. Then she noticed something even stranger. It wasn't the gesture itself. It was the timing. The movement often happened after one of them looked toward the other. Myra sat back. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she laughed. Okay, she whispered. This is getting ridiculous. But she kept watching. The internet loves patterns. Give people 2 unexplained moments and they will build a theory. Give them 10 and they will build a universe. Soon, the fictional fan community began discussing the clips. Some said it meant nothing. Others believed the two simply had a long professional history and naturally recognized each other's habits. Some insisted the moments were being deliberately exaggerated. And others became obsessed. But one question kept returning. Why did the same tiny details keep appearing? Then another clip surfaced. This one was different. It wasn't a performance. It wasn't a staged interview. It was a chaotic backstage recording. The camera was pointed somewhere else. Yibo was barely visible. Zhan was also partially hidden behind another person. Nothing about the clip seemed important. Until the camera suddenly shifted. For 1 second, both appeared in the same frame. Yibo looked across. Zhan looked back. Then Yibo smiled. Not the public smile. Not the polished celebrity smile. A quick, almost involuntary smile. Zhan responded with one of his own. Then both immediately looked away. The clip lasted less than 5 seconds. But within hours, people were talking. Did you see that? Look at his face. Why did he smile? Maybe they were just greeting each other. Maybe. And that word became the most dangerous word of all. Maybe. Because maybe means possibility. And possibility is where imagination begins. But in our fictional story, the real secret wasn't the glance. It was what happened afterward. Yibo returned to his dressing room. He closed the door. His assistant handed him his phone. There is a message. Yibo looked at the screen. He froze. The message contained only 6 words. You noticed it too, didn't you? No name. No explanation. No context. Yibo stared at the message. Then he typed. Who is this? The reply came almost immediately. Someone who has been watching. Yibo's expression changed. He looked toward the door. Nobody was there. He typed again. Watching what? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then the message arrived. The pattern. Yibo stopped breathing for a moment. The pattern. What pattern? He hadn't told anyone. Had someone been monitoring the same moments? He put the phone down. Then picked it up again. Another message arrived. Ask Zhan. Yibo stared at the screen. For the first time that evening, he looked genuinely unsettled. Across the building, Zhan was sitting quietly. His manager was speaking about the schedule. He wasn't listening. His phone vibrated. He looked down. 1 message. Unknown number. 6 words. You noticed it too, didn't you? Zhan's eyes narrowed. He didn't answer. Another message arrived. Ask Yibo. He stared at the screen. Then slowly locked his phone. His manager noticed. Everything okay? Zhan smiled. Yes. But it wasn't. Because the message had triggered a memory. Something from years earlier. A moment he had completely forgotten. Or thought he had forgotten. Years before, during a fictional rehearsal, the two had been waiting backstage. The room had been noisy. People were talking. Music was playing. Someone was laughing loudly. Yibo had been sitting quietly. Zhan had looked over. You always do that. Yibo had looked confused. Do what? That. What? Zhan had pointed toward his sleeve. Yibo looked down. He had been rubbing the edge of it between his fingers. I don't. You do. When? When you're thinking. Yibo laughed. You're imagining things. Zhan smiled. Maybe. Then the conversation ended. Neither of them thought about it again. Until now. Back in the present, Zhan looked at his reflection. The memory had returned with frightening clarity. He remembered another detail. Yibo had asked him something that night. Something strange. If one day everyone starts looking for meanings in everything we do, what would you do? Zhan had laughed. I'd stop giving them meanings. Yibo had smiled. Good answer. But now Zhan wondered whether the question had been more important than he realized. The next morning, another clip appeared online. This time, the footage seemed completely harmless. Yibo was walking past a group of people. Someone called his name. He turned. At exactly the same moment, Zhan appeared behind him. Yibo stopped. Zhan stopped. Neither spoke. Then they moved in opposite directions. Thousands of comments appeared. But Myra noticed something else. She downloaded the original video. She checked the audio. There was a sound beneath the crowd noise. A quiet voice. Almost impossible to hear. She increased the volume. The voice became clearer. 3 words. Not here. Later. Myra froze. She replayed it. Again. Again. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. But then she realized something. The voice wasn't clear enough to identify. It could have been anyone. A staff member. A fan. Someone walking nearby. There was no proof. And yet the words seemed perfectly timed with the moment Yibo and Zhan separated. Myra posted nothing. For the first time, she decided not to share what she had found. Because she understood something. A mysterious clue without context could become a dangerous rumor. So instead, she kept investigating. That night, she discovered the second hidden detail. A symbol. It appeared briefly in the corner of one backstage photograph. At first, she thought it was a production mark. Then she found the same symbol in another photo. Different event. Different year. Different location. Same shape. A small circle. A line through the center. And 2 tiny marks underneath. Myra searched everything she could. Nothing. Then she found an old rehearsal image. The symbol was there. Her heart began racing. It wasn't a fan edit. It wasn't something added later. It appeared in the original image. She enlarged it. Then she noticed something written beside it. A handwritten number. 17. She didn't understand. Until she found another photograph. The same symbol. Different number. 29. Another. 04. Then another. 11. It looked like a code. But what did the numbers mean? Dates. Room numbers. Camera positions. Rehearsal times. Or nothing at all. Myra contacted nobody. Instead, she created a private folder. She called it The Hidden Detail. Inside were dozens of screenshots. Every strange glance. Every repeated gesture. Every unexplained coincidence. Every symbol. Every number. She began constructing a timeline. And then she discovered something that made her hands go cold. The numbers weren't random. They formed a sequence. Then she converted them into letters. Q. C. D. K. Nothing. She tried another arrangement. 17-29-04-11. Still nothing. Then she reversed it. 11-04-29-17. Still nothing. She nearly gave up. Until she noticed the numbers corresponded to positions. Not letters. Positions in a sentence. She returned to one of the clips. There was a sign behind Yibo. She zoomed in. The sign contained a phrase. She counted the words. The 17th word. Then the 29th. Then the 4th. Then the 11th. She extracted them. Her mouth fell open. They formed a sentence. Some things survive because nobody explains them. Myra stared at the screen. Was this coincidence? Almost certainly. There was no evidence anyone had created the sequence intentionally. But the sentence was chilling. Because it sounded like something someone would say when they wanted to protect a secret. Meanwhile, the unknown messages continued. Yibo received another. You shouldn't be searching. He replied. Who are you? No answer. Xiao received one too. The more you look, the more people will see. He deleted it. Then another appeared. You know why. He stopped. That sentence hurt more than it should have. Because somewhere inside himself, he did know why. Not because of some secret scandal. Not because of some hidden romance. But because fame had taught both of them something brutal. People don't always want the truth. Sometimes they want a story. Sometimes they want a theory. Sometimes they want 2 seconds of footage to mean something enormous. And once the story begins, the people inside it can lose control.